Greetings. Welcome to my presentation on how to find the area under the curve in Excel. Now what I've done here is I've just made up an example. I've taken an example and we're going to work through it. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. It's actually not difficult in Excel. Now the example I'm using here is using, for some of you, maybe quite a complex formula. Y equals e to the power of 0.001 times f, which is for force in this example. Now you might not have ever come across the term e. It's an exponential. Don't worry about that because this is not about the maths, it's about the Excel. Now the easiest way to find the area under the curve is to use a mathematical principle called integration, which if you've not had any experience of that, you won't know how to do, of course. It's actually quite relatively simple if you ever do get to do it. But anyway, as I said, we're not getting into the maths. Now what we've got here is this curve here. It doesn't look much like a curve, but it actually is a curve, very gentle curve that follows this formula. What I've done is I've plotted it here. I've done the usual trick of I've put a formula in. So to do an exponential, to do any formulas, equals, then we've got exp, then in brackets it's this cell, which in this particular example represents force. This ext here represents extension, and my formula I've got is this force times 0.01. Okay, so I've put that in, hit the enter key, and I've got 1.1618, and then I've taken the corner there and dragged it down. Let me just zoom in there for you so you can see that. Okay, so there's my formula. Hope you can see that okay. So it's equals exp b3 times 0.01 in brackets, hit enter, and it does the sum basically. So your formula might not be as complicated as that. It might be a simpler graph, simpler plot, and then you take the corner, and I've dragged it down. Mine goes up to 675 because we're going to be finding the area under our curve. Just zoom out a little bit, from 150 to 675. So under here, from here to here. Okay, so let's move on. Now I've actually already done this with integration to find out the answer is 102.2, which is all well and good if you can do integration, but if you can't, then anybody can do this who's got Excel. So the formula is, as I say, I'll just put the formula in and then I'll explain it in a bit of time. So the formula is quite straightforward, and as I say, I will explain it later on. So we put an equals, means we've got a formula, open brackets, and then what I need is this one plus this value here, close bracket, divide by 2, and then that is times by this value minus this value. I've missed a bracket out there. Whoops. If it lets me fix it. Right, need a bracket there. Enter. Okay. So let's just double check that. I've got that plus that divided by 2, that minus that, so it's the difference between them two. And what I've actually done there is I found the area under the curve from there to there, and I've treated it like a straight line. And what I've done is I've used something called the mid-ordinate rule. More than that later. So what I'm going to do now, zoom out for ease, I'm going to drag that down. So you move your cursor to the corner, drag down the formula to the bottom. Right, what we do now is we stop one place short of the last, so we don't include the 675, and the reason for that is because if I look at this one here, it's actually included from there 56 to 55, so it's actually been included. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is, so these are all the areas under each part of this curve. Now what I could have done in the formula is I could have done, because the difference is 10 for all these values except this one, if it had not been this is a difference of 5. Now if my gaps had all been even 10, I could have just in there put times 10. But in my particular case, I've got to take into account this bottom one's 5, so that's why I've used this formula. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is select a cell there, and I'm going to use my auto sum, which is over here on the right. You just click on it. Excel's very clever at selecting the correct data. It's showing it in a dotted line. Enter, and there's my answer, 802.2. And if you look at what I got from integration, it's bang on. Okay, so it's worked, in other words. So you can see that's pretty straightforward. So what we've actually done is we've used what's known as the mid-ordinate rule, which has basically treated all these sections individually. It's gone to the middle point between these two values. So we've got, if you look at the formula here, let's zoom in a little bit. So I've got there my C4, that cell there, added together that one, then I've divided it by 2, so I've got the middle one, the middle value, the average of the two. Then I've times it by the width, which is that distance from there to there, so 10 in other words, and that's given me the area under that curve there. Then I've repeated it on the next one and the next one and so on, and then I've simply added them all together and ignored this bottom one because it's not relevant, because we don't want from 675 to the next one. If I'd included that, I would have got a silly answer here, which would have skewed my value, would have given you the wrong answer. Now the things to bear in mind with the mid-ordinate rule, there's a few things here. It's given me a fairly accurate answer, and part of the reason for that is because this shape is very regular. It's fairly straight on this scale of things. If it had been a bit more irregular, up and down and more jagged, then it wouldn't have given us quite a precise answer. The other thing to bear in mind is I've done this fairly accurate. I've done it every 10 newtons. This is 4 cent in newtons. I've done it every 10 newtons. If I'd done it from, say, from this point to this point and treat this as one whole straight line, the actual, so I would have taken, in my formula, I would have taken C56 minus C4, for example. So treat it as one big shape. I would have actually got an answer of 819.5. So you can see it becomes fairly inaccurate then. So the trick there is the more points you take, the more accurate it is. And obviously in Excel that's fairly easy to do. So that's one of the things to bear in mind. The more points you take, the more precise it is. And that's it really. And that's it. So that ends that. As I said, it's fairly quick, quite easy to do, very straightforward. So thank you for listening.